Okay. Hey, everybody in the Mommy Berries community. I think this will be a good one today because this is a topic that lots of pregnant moms want to ask us about. I'm lucky to have two lovely ladies here. Brittany on the bottom, I love to have her join when we're talking about anything related to exercise and anything related to sweet, long flowing hair. And also one of my lovely colleagues here in Kelowna, Kirsty. And I thought this would be a great mix because not only are we all working with pregnant moms, all pelvic health physios, but Kirsty's also pregnant. And so I thought that she would be a great addition to this conversation because she can talk through the eyes of a pregnant woman. And what we wanted to touch on today was like core exercise during pregnancy, because I know a lot of women are like, oh my gosh, am I supposed to do it? Am I not? There's a lot of confusion around it. And I want to leave you with the message that core exercise during pregnancy is not bad. There's definitely things to consider, but on an individual basis. And so thanks for being here, ladies.
Thanks for having us.
What would you guys say? I guess like maybe I'll just really quickly say in a couple sentences a quick message that I would give to pregnant women about core exercise, and then I would love to hear what you guys say too. When women ask like, can I do core exercise? Usually I start by asking them like, what do you like to do? Or what are your favorite exercises? And I usually explain that the biggest reason that, we talk about being like cautious during pregnancy is that your body's changing so much. Like your whole abdomen, where the core muscles live, is really changing. And so it changes how your muscles work. And I usually explain to them that there's different layers to our muscles or to our core. And that especially the inside ones that live closest to the baby, I guess, are really stretching, and they need to be part of the movement. And so I usually, want them to be able to understand what their deep core, their inner core feels like, and how they can make sure that they're, I guess, taking that into account because their body is feeling so different. And so then I kind of break it down exercise by exercise. And I wonder, that's what we're going to do today, but I wonder what's kind of like a couple sentences that you generally talk to women about if you're going to summarize when someone asks you about core exercise? Where do you go with it?
For myself, I definitely, again, start the conversation with like, what are they referring to with core, like quote unquote core exercises, and what are they looking to either continue to do or work towards doing? With the demographic that I work with primarily, like in CrossFit athletes, like there's a lot of high end kind of gymnastics movements that they might want to continue to pursue. Like that involves kipping and really working through a very large range of motion of the thorax. And so we may go down the road of, yes, of course, we can still do core exercises. It just might look a little different than what your kind of current CrossFit movement will look like. So that's generally where I go. My overall message is, yes, of course, we can still do it. But it's on a very individual basis on kind of what they are feeling, how they feel during the movement, what it looks like. And then we just kind of go from there.
Totally. Kirsty, what about you? Like, what are some of your take homes?
Yeah, I think most of the things that you guys have said, I would ask, and I would also want to know, I guess basically what have they been doing leading up to this appointment where we're talking about doing core? Is it, that they just want to start now working on their core, or have they been doing, bar and Pilates 5 days a week, for the last 10 years? So it is so individual. I often find that I just want to see them do the exercise and watch their strategy. And then we can make a program that's individualized. And then I usually show, okay, this is you controlling it, and this is what it would feel like and look like if it wasn't controlled, and just those things to look out for.
Awesome. And that's what I thought might be helpful for people today, is that we go through some exercises like on an individual basis, and we just say, What about this one? Because I think our message, correct me if I'm wrong, ladies, our message at the end of this is that it's not black and white. There's no good exercises. And I think that's actually one thing someone said, can you list the top 10 exercises that are okay during pregnancy? And so I said, absolutely, I'll address that question. But I think you'll notice at the end of this session, it's very much like, we can't give you that list because it's individual. And I think that you should take that as a plus. That there's no bad exercises. There, you might find that there's a couple that you're like, you know what, I think I'm gonna have to pick this up when I'm done being pregnant, or on my road to recovery. But really, there's so many options for you, and I think you'll find that a lot of it has to do with maybe kind of like scaling the movement or changing how much you move through the exercise, or modifying it so that it's less movement through it, or maybe less reps or something like that. And we'll talk through, I think, them on an individual basis. Why don't we start, you guys? I thought it would be helpful for Kirsty to demonstrate them, and we can talk through, because I thought it would be helpful for her to say, okay, here's an exercise that people want to know about, or that I've been wondering about. Let me just try to do it as if I did before I was pregnant. Oh, this is how it feels. Does it feel good? Does it feel not good? And what does not good feel like? And then we can talk, like help her kind of figure out how could she modify that. And then maybe it gives you some ideas of how you could modify some of your favorite exercises. Let's start by the ones that people specifically asked about. And I think one of the most common is like a plank.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys. Put me on the spot here.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Kirsty, now show us your bedroom and your belly. And
this is my glorious belly.
Yeah. Can you actually remind everyone, Kirsty, how many weeks pregnant are you now?
Oh, so I'm 24 weeks now.
Okay, 24 weeks, and this is Kirsty's second baby. Kirsty, really quickly, just on a day-to-day basis, so Kirsty, at the beginning of her pregnancy, definitely felt like miserable in general, like just nauseated all the time. But Kirsty, anything really like kind of plaguing you now? Any aches and pains or anything?
It's mainly just when I do higher intensity exercise, I get what I would consider to be Braxton Hicks contractions. Okay. And a lot of pressure in my pelvic region. Okay. So that's really the only thing that bugs me at the moment.
And then I'm guessing that you kind of use that as your threshold, and you try, like, you basically kind of, oh, I'm getting that, I need to back off a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So, awesome. For me, it's going to be, I like to do interval training. So it's kind of watching my heart rate a little bit, but it's mainly the sensations that I get that are, keeping me from pushing too hard.
Awesome. And I think that that's kind of what we're going to look for in this, is like, what's kind of her threshold? What does she feel and what bothers her during these exercises? So Kirsty, let's pretend that you're not pregnant and mm-hmm. that you are just going to go into a plank. Mm-hmm. Talk to us about kind of like how you feel.
So my typical is to actually plank on my elbows because my wrist is a little bit funny. So I'm just going to show you that modification, which is totally fine. And that's how I would do my plank.
Looks
and I can tell you that I feel that pressure in my uterus when I do this.
Okay.
So
Britt, does that mean that Kirsty can never do a plank again?
No, not yet. Not yet. I would, we would definitely start asking questions around like, I would be looking, I can't really see you, Kirsty, but what is her strategy for in that position? Like, is she breath holding? Is she using a very high tension strategy while she's there? And we might start kind of fiddling with breath or strategy in that position first. And then if that doesn't change it, then we can scale it back. So we can maybe have her elevate herself where she's doing it from her bed, for example. So she's kind of in a higher elevation plank.
Can you try that, Kirsty, and see how that feels? Like,
yes. And you know what is a really good point with that, Brittany, is that as soon as I got horizontal, I had heartburn immediately. So I would love to be elevated, and I think that would feel so much more comfortable for me. So
okay, cool.
Yeah. So let me pull my little bench over.
Oh, perfect. There you go.
Yeah, that was not planned. That was just kind of there. So. just see
My plank
how
bend.
that goes.
Yeah, awesome.
Oh, sorry, it needs to come forward a bit. Okay. And this is so much better. Like I still have to work and I can still feel that tension in my low belly, but maybe what I would do is, add some movement to it. Like maybe I wouldn't just stay there. Maybe what would feel better might be kind of me coming in and out of that position. Like I might be able to tolerate that a little bit more.
Okay. How would it feel if you even dropped a knee, and almost kind of alternated, like one knee down? Does that put you a little bit into like a back arch, or does that feel okay?
I don't think it puts me, it feels okay.
And Kirsty, will you walk through, like if you were to exaggerate for people, like what you might be doing with your breathing?
Yeah, and that's so interesting. So with my breathing, I might start holding my breath here and kind of, I'm talking so I'm not holding, but I might hold my breath there, or my back might go funny. I might kind of drop into my shoulders so my scapulas are winging, and then my belly might drop if I can't control that.
Yeah. And I wonder if you show Kirsty, like in that position, will you exaggerate like a core breath just to be able to show people kind of what, like if you're really think you guys think it's a good position with your like your belly down, whether you be kind of on all fours or whether you be in that position, and just show people like what it looks like when you're kind of paying attention to those deep core muscles, like what that looks different in your belly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and maybe I'll do it in the plank and then I'll show you in 4-point. Because I think the plank is going to be harder for me to do that, because it's just at the edge of my ability here, guys.
Exactly. And I think that's the point, is to show like what you feel is like, no, I'm having a hard time with all my muscles working together. Yeah.
So if I really engage my pelvic floor and my core, that's what that looks like. And then if I let that go, that's what that looks like. I don't know if you can tell a big difference there, but I'll show you in 4.2 just a little bit closer. Maybe you turn this way so you can see a bit better. So if I completely relax there.
You can kind of see her belly kind of looks softer because all of her muscles are just like letting go. Okay.
And if I engage, that's where I'm at.
And what does that feel like when you say engage? Like, what are you doing?
I'm doing a pelvic floor contraction. So I'm tightening around my anus and urethra. And actually when I do that, I just get like a little bit of a low belly lift.
Yeah. And do you concentrate with your breath too? Like, are you thinking about like an exhale? So she's using her exhale and her kind of deep core cue to make sure that all of her muscles are kind of like coming along for the ride, I guess. Yeah. And like in that plank position, when you did that versus not, what felt different to you?
I think in the plank position, I really feel, I would imagine it's more stretching or pressure on my uterus, just because, I guess I must be working a lot harder in the plank position versus 4-point feels way more comfortable. I can control my breath. I can control my pelvic floor a lot more. Yeah. I wouldn't choose the plank for me right now. I wouldn't say that felt good. I say I could probably do it, but I don't love it.
And I think maybe I'll link, Brittany, I'll link in the plank progressions you showed a long time ago to show like a not pregnant person. But I think that you would also be able to apply a lot of that and just be able to kind of work through those progressions, even though you're pregnant. On that note, you guys, because it's a very similar position, another request was for push-ups. And I'm guessing it would be very similar to what we just showed. Yeah. Because I think that's another movement that people are really wanting to keep up with during pregnancy.
Okay, so let's see. I'm going to pop up fully here. Let my bum go down. Oh, here we go, guys. It's been a little while since I did a push-up. Bear with me. Ooh, ooh. But this actually doesn't feel too bad on my tummy. I think for me, it's just my upper body.
Totally. So you can see in that position, that wouldn't be something that I'd be like, Kirsty, you should pick up while you're pregnant. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. But actually, interesting that in this full plank position, even though my wrist is a little bit funny, this is actually more comfortable for me than on elbow. So I think that just goes to show that you just sort of have to try it and see how you're feeling. And that might feel fine for me today, but tomorrow or later this evening, it might feel different. So just because it didn't feel good right now, I wouldn't necessarily not ever try it again.
totally. What about a modification for that one, Brittany? Like, what would you? That's an exercise that I get a lot of people want to keep up with.
Yeah, with push-ups, again, like depending on what their previous exposure was to it, like Kirsty had said, based on what I saw there, I would probably even consider like having her, if it was something she wanted to do, like elevate herself even more so that she could work through greater range of motion without it feeling like such an effort. That would probably be like the first thing that I would try.
What about even like, I don't know if Kirsty, if you're set up there to kind of like even think about it against the wall, or maybe your bed's too high. Is there a ledge on that fireplace?
I think I could do it.
Yeah.
Can you guys see here?
Mm-hmm.
So try to line up my hands with my shoulders. And then if I go through here.
Walk through, like, can you exaggerate your breath big time so we can hear it? What you would do? What would you be thinking about?
I would inhale and then I would inhale.
Okay.
I usually like to exhale through the movement. That feels best for me.
Yeah.
But I can definitely get through way more range of motion with that. Like Brittany said, that feels nicer. It feels like good work in my chest.
And if you don't pay attention to like your exhale and your deep connection cue, what do you feel, Kirsty? Like if you were to do that and just kind of like let your belly go.
Oh, it's way more pressure on my hands.
Okay.
It just feels like too much force coming through my wrists versus if I control that, it feels like the force more comes through my chest and my shoulders. So probably just better control.
Awesome. What about you guys, like general like crunch type exercises? That's another one that you get a lot of requests. Like, do I have to stop all of my crunches? What do you guys say? What do you guys say?
I think for myself that this is personally one that I do usually move away from.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of just, there's not a lot of specific research, right? From that, what I know of, but what I always question the abdominal wall, and what it's kind of that I just put it into two buckets of like the should I versus could I, and personally erring on the side of caution of there's many more ways to get abdominal work that doesn't involve that crunch that could potentially, just be increased. And I know the research now out there is showing some people with doing crunches isn't necessarily increasing intra-abdominal pressure all that much, but I don't know. I err on the side of caution with this one.
I find I do too. And I guess my rationale is, again, sometimes with this, I'm like, is this a good reason I'm giving? But I find that it's like, first of all, that baby's in the middle. So it's like hard to kind of like flex anyway. But like you're trying to bias the rectus muscles, like the six-pack muscles in a crunch. And generally, like just with the way they're really changing, it's kind of, you're not getting the effect that you think you are or that you were, right? And so However, I think that in that position, like, I think Kirsty, we were talking about this before, and how, like some women like to stick with on their back and do like, instead of thinking of crunching up, like how can you still target some of those front muscles, like maybe with your legs instead of your upper? Like, do you want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And again, like I feel like you just have to try it and see how it feels. Like honestly, doing a crunch to me, that sounds horrible. Like that's
Yeah.
the last thing that I would want to do because I think it would give me heartburn. And I just like my belly's getting so big that like what's my range of motion really gonna be like before I feel like I'm stuck?
Yeah.
So like let's just try it. But I mean, that might have been fine up until this point.
Yeah.
That
Right.
went fine all through my first trimester.
So
Um,
Melissa, oh, sorry, not to interrupt. Carry on, Kirsty.
oh no, that's okay. Yeah,
One question I had, and I believe that it was a question from someone about bicycle, right? So
Yeah,
this
that's
would
where,
be, yeah, going with it.
yes.
So definitely like lying on your back, we could target like there's an infinite number of variations that
Yeah.
you could go working up to bicycle.
Yes, I thought that was a
Yeah.
good way to kind of segue into like, still being on your back and targeting some of those muscles. But yeah, let's talk through it, Kirsty. Like if you were on your back, yeah, and first if you try to kind of flex up from the top.
yeah. I mean, I can do it. It actually doesn't. It doesn't bother me at all.
And how do you feel like okay, so I don't want to get into this too much with this discussion because we're a little bit limited with time, but I think we should talk about this in the future. Maybe Kirsty and I should do this, like talking specifically about diastasis during pregnancy. But I could see when you were checking there, you're kind of feeling like, what does all my tissues feel like? Are my tissues tolerating this, right?
Yeah, and it feels fine. I'm
Yeah.
not moving or both. Like it feels like I could do that exercise for sure.
But what are you thinking about in order to do that? Are you just flinging your body up?
So this is my.
Think if nothing, lift my head, and I'm actually doing okay.
And if I felt like I wasn't, I might do a bit more of a pelvic floor contraction and just feeling that sort of deeper core setting on my lower abdominals, and then I could lift my head again. But I think fortunately for me, my abdominals haven't really separated much. So I think that one's a fairly safe one for me to do.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely an exercise that'd be worth checking with on an individual basis because it's a hard exercise to do, even when you're not pregnant, right? Kirsty, can you get into, like, one of the questions was about bicycle, like the exercise bicycle.
Yeah.
Try to do it and just see how you feel.
So for me, I'm definitely being conscious to kind of like because my back I know is going to want to round a little bit when I lift my legs. So I'm kind of thinking about kind of setting my pelvis a little bit. I'm definitely going to do my pelvic floor contraction now because I know this is harder for me.
But you can
And
see
then
just by like lining up how hard that is for you, hey?
that second leg coming up, I had to really think about controlling it. And then bicycles normally with the head elevated too, right?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not bad. Like I think I'm still doing okay controlling that. I can still breathe. I'm not, holding my breath, but probably that would be my safe, comfortable limit. And I might even just stay there.
And how could you back it way down, like with the speed, and like really this is a hard exercise for the abdominal muscles. So how, like, walk through you would do to kind of slow it down and really be thinking of like your deepest muscles as well, your deepest core muscles coming in as well.
Yeah. So I would probably inhale, exhale, contract pelvic floor. And then while I have that contraction, I would lift my one leg and then lift the other because I know I can't lift both my legs at the same time. So then once in that position, I could probably keep my head down and I'm still engaging here, and I could probably manage this. So that could be one modification. And like Brittany said, there's a million modifications that you could make to this. Like I don't even have to lift both legs up to tabletop. I could actually just lift my head
And then maybe keep one leg on the ground and alternate from side to side that way.
Yeah. Any other modifications that you guys can think of?
And then I guess too, like, so you're mentioning like your biggest symptoms are like you keep mentioning heartburn and like pressure in your I keep wanting to say urethra, but your uterus. Maybe your urethra as well. But what other things, maybe like, can you guys touch on what other moms might be like, what other symptoms to watch out for that might say like, hold up on that?
Yeah, a common one would be like SI pain, like SI joint pain, low back pain, I think would be two big ones when you're lying on your back and you're doing anything lifting your legs, because there's that tendency to, create a little bit of an arch, and to create that compression or even lots of tension through the neck. Like if people are telling me like, ooh, I can do that, but like I really feel my neck muscles a lot.
Totally. What other ones, Britt, do you think you would hear?
Well, Kirsty was basically checking it herself. But to kind of the moms out there, what I would be watching for or looking for as far as symptoms is any kind of tearing sensation, discomfort at the midline, noticing any bulging or doming at the midline by the belly button or above or below.
Totally.
So abdominal wall, that's where I would go for that one.
And I think Kirsty, I think you're probably lucky, like you said, in that respect, because that was definitely one of my, like, it was like an alien coming out of my belly every time I tried to do that. And I think some of you will notice, like, that was definitely my threshold a lot, is like, I can't hold it back. Like I can't, those deep muscles that you're able to connect, like I just felt like I couldn't. So yeah, that one. Or even like I would say, you can't breathe, right? Like you're not able to breathe through the exercise, right? Yeah. What else? I think those are the big ones, like vaginal pressure, even Braxton Hicks, right? Sometimes it might be from something that's, not a cardiovascular exercise, but that's more of a strength exercise. I'm just being mindful of the time here, you guys, because I actually have to go to work today. But what other take-home messages, like if we haven't, I think what I wanted to kind of go through is just like, it's hard for us to say like these are the accepted exercises, but it's more like I wanted to take some of the things that people had asked about and just walk through them and just say like, oh, you know what, try it. I think that was one of the take-home messages, like just try it first and see what it does for you. Like, does it create some of those symptoms that we just listed? And if it doesn't, then maybe you don't need to be so scared of it, but I would take your time. Like, I think you could see Kirsty too, is like taking her time with the movement and really thinking to use her breath, use her deep core connection cues to make sure they're coming along with the exercise. And then don't be afraid to be creative and modify the exercise. Like, how could I make it a little bit easier for my body right now so that I can keep going through the motions, but without symptoms? What other take homes, you guys, do you guys think that we've missed or that I haven't touched on?
I think one thing for myself that I'd love moms, pregnant women to get the message on is that I know we've been talking about assuming that people have already been exercising, right? But what we know about pregnancy guidelines now is they're actually encouraging, even if you weren't exercising before, as long as there's not any kind of medical contraindication to do so, encouraging getting active during pregnancy. So it's not like, oh, I have had a mom in the clinic just last week that was like, oh, I'm actually really disappointed to be pregnant. I wanted to have my core like in check before this happened. And now I feel like it's too late. And it's like, actually, it's not too late. Now it's the perfect time to start, so I think I want to give that message out there for moms.
Absolutely. I think I'll link at the bottom after we're done this. I'll link. I did an interview with Kirsty and another physio that we work with, and it was really interesting when I talked to both of them. They're both around the same stage of pregnancy, but Kirsty at the time was just feeling absolutely miserable, and she's a very active person that was like, "Listen, I can't do anything right now, like nothing right now." And the other girl was like, "I feel awesome. I'm running, I'm swimming, do you know what I mean?" And to show that like two active women are finding themselves at a very different point in the exercise spectrum, but then like Kirsty feels much better now, she's able to do more. And that you're right, like you could see that she still had that confidence, like, you know what, I just have to take care of this and I will get there when I'm ready. But I think it is important to say, like, not only for your health, physical health, but your mental health to be active, but then also too, like, as I think we've all can say, is that like being a new mom is hard work physically. And so, feeling strong and feeling like you have a bit of an outlet can be really important. And so thank you guys for doing this. And it always leads to more questions and more ideas. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we need to spend more time talking about this. But I appreciate you demonstrating, Kirsty, and kind of doing that for the benefit of others, and for both of you to help me talk through this. And I always feel like it's nice to do it with other people, because you learn, and you sometimes get to just be like, oh, I always talk about this, but like, should I, is that good advice that I'm giving people? And so sometimes I think it's nice to be able to say, okay, we're all kind of on the same page. We all think that you're all individual, and that seek help from someone you trust in your community. Anyways, have a good day, ladies.
Yes,
Thank you
same
so
to you, Mel.
much. Thanks for having
Thanks
us.
for having.